When Lorraine Barker showed up for work aboard Delta Airline Flight 310, she never imagined how the day would unfold. His work was always accompanied by some complications. Having to direct and attend to hundreds of people requires staying calm. But this time, she had to use her instincts to try and save someone in need before it was too late. Lorraine had always been fascinated by traveling the world and meeting new people. As a child, she dreamed of being a flight attendant, flying to exotic destinations, and living a glamorous life. When he finished high school, he applied for jobs at every airline he could think of, and eventually landed one at Delta Airlines. It was hard work, and she sometimes missed home, but Lorraine loved it. I could see the world, meet new people, and help others. She had encountered some passengers and difficult situations, but nothing that would have prepared her for what was about to happen on Flight 310. The flight was routine, passengers were settled into their seats, and Lorraine and the other flight attendants followed their usual pre-flight routine. There were people of all kinds. Lorraine was used to working on short domestic flights, but this would be her first international flight. The 10-hour drive from Salt Lake City, Utah, to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, had her excited. There were always older people who needed his help, and some small children who were traveling alone. He always made sure he was on hand in case they needed anything. He especially liked dealing with children. If some of them were afraid, she always had something ready that would catch their attention and take away their fear of flying. However, today was different. As the plane took off, Lorraine noticed a man sitting in the back row who looked nervous and restless. He was accompanied by two young girls. He tried to get close to him, but avoided eye contact and kept his face hidden behind a baseball cap. Lorraine's instincts told her that something was wrong, and she knew she had to keep a close eye on him throughout the flight. As the flight progressed, Lorraine noticed that the man frequently looked at his watch and scanned the cabin with his eyes. He also noted that he was not carrying luggage and that he did not appear to be comfortable in his seat. Lorraine began to worry that she might be carrying something dangerous, but she tried to stay calm and focused, hoping that her fears would be unfounded. When it was time for lunch, the man ordered a single meal for himself and the two girls. Lorraine found it odd that he didn't ask for separate meals for the girls, but she tried not to jump to conclusions. However, as she walked down the aisle with the tray of food, she noticed that the girls were not eating. They looked down into his lap, and their faces were pale and withdrawn. Lorraine's heart sank when she realized that something was very wrong. She noticed that the girls were very quiet and only looked down. They didn't have anything to keep them busy, like some parents carrying coloring books and crayons or an iPad. They looked sad, and she wondered if her father had scolded them for doing something. Lorraine decided to invite the girls to something special to lift their spirits. He grabbed some sandwiches and some juices to take with him. I knew they would smile right away. When he approached them, the man gave him a disapproving look and said, "No." Lorraine was surprised by his defiant behavior. She just wanted to make the children smile, but that man insisted on stopping her. He could see that they looked lost and craved some kind of attention. They also looked somewhat disheveled and looked like they hadn't combed their hair in days. What kind of father leaves his children in that state? She always wanted to have her own children and could not imagine not taking care of them and abandoning them to their fate. Lorraine knew she had to do something. He could no longer ignore his instinct. He quickly came up with a plan to discreetly ask the girls if they needed help, and to ask the pilot for help if needed. Lorraine's heart raced as she approached the man and his daughters. He smiled and leaned over to talk to the girls. "Hello, do you like to draw?" he asked, trying to start a conversation. The girls nodded shyly, and Lorraine gave them the coloring books and crayons. When they started coloring, he asked them if they were okay and if they needed anything. They looked at her with sad eyes and nodded their heads. But the man gave her a furious look that made her blood run cold. As the flight progressed, Lorraine had a feeling that something was not right. He notices that the man is becoming more and more agitated and paces back and forth down the hallway. Lorraine watches him intently, ready to intervene if necessary. He also kept a close eye on the girls, hoping they were okay. During the flight, she realized that the man had let them watch a movie each. They were wearing their headphones and seemed a little calmer, but Lorraine knew something wasn't right. He had never seen that kind of behavior in children and worried they might be in danger. But there was a problem. She couldn't prove it. I needed to find a way to communicate with the girls alone. None of them got up to go to the bathroom, so Lorraine found it difficult to come up with her plan. He continued to watch them as he carried food through the hallways. They looked somewhat pleased, but I could see the fear in their eyes. He wanted to send them a secret message that only they could read. How could she do it without being caught by her father? Lorraine was good with children, so she tried to come up with a fun way to distract them to get the message across. It wasn't going to be easy. She asked for advice and help from another flight attendant. The situation was difficult, but her longtime friend Ava proposed a possible solution. They only had to execute it perfectly, so as not to arouse suspicion from their father. Lorraine was very nervous. This was his only chance to see if these girls needed his help. Ava suggested that Lorraine propose to them to play tic-tac-toe and that the winner receive a special prize. The prize would be a note that Lorraine would secretly pass to the winner with a message to meet her in the bathroom. Lorraine thought it was a good plan and began to put it into practice. Lorraine approached the girls with a smile and asked if they wanted to play tic-tac-toe. They eagerly accepted, and Lorraine gave each a piece of paper and a pen. As they played, Lorraine didn't lose sight of the man. He was busy watching a movie and didn't seem to realize what was going on. It was a tense situation. She was trying to do something without the man noticing, and it was very difficult for her. At one point, the man looked at her and the girls to see what exactly was going on, but he realized that he was innocent and went back to watch his film. Lorraine and the girls almost succeeded. When the game was over, Lorraine gave the girls their special prize. She whispered to the winner to meet her in the bathroom in 5 minutes. The girls nodded, and Lorraine went back to her duties. She watched them closely. She could see they were finding it difficult to get up and go to the bathroom without the man getting suspicious. But 5 minutes later, the winner knocked on the bathroom door, and Lorraine let her in. Lorraine asked the girl if she was okay and if she needed help. The girl nodded and told her that her father was not her birth father. Her lips started trembling, her eyes growing glossy. She looked behind her as if the man was listening in. "It's okay," Lorraine said. If only she knew what she was getting herself into. What Lorraine had feared throughout the flight was seemingly coming true. The man and the two girls were not related. Lorraine swallowed a hard lump of air as she considered the implications of what she'd just gotten herself into. Wouldn't it be wise for her to pull the plug on her operation before it was too late? The worried flight attendant thought about reporting the matter to Ava first. Her friend had always helped her keep a clear head during such difficult moments. Lorraine also wasn't sure if the girls were in actual trouble just because the man wasn't their dad. What if she caused a stir, only to end up being sued for defamation or something along those lines? Lorraine's mind raced so much that the girl asked if she was okay. Lorraine nodded, her lips curling. That the girl had asked her if she was okay was enough to tell her what she needed to do. She'd always helped people, whether it was dangerous. She wasn't about to stop now, but before she could do anything here, she'd have to help the girl back to her seat. It would be wise if the man she was with didn't suspect anything. Lorraine considered asking the girl a few more questions. She needed more context for what was happening. But the girl had already been away for long enough. The man would be looking for her soon. Unlocking the bathroom door, Lorraine asked the girl if their mom was all right with the man taking her and her sister away. The girl's answer would make her freeze in place. "Mommy wasn't home," the girl whispered, sadness lacing her voice. Lorraine had to shake herself back to reality. "It's going to be okay," she whispered, even though fear had petrified her. Men capable of doing the things this man was doing weren't the kind to play around. The same way she did while inside the bathroom, Lorraine wondered if getting involved here was a wise choice. She led the girl back to her seat. After strapping her in, she walked over to Ava, using everything within her to remain calm. Ava saw her face, devoid of emotion, and stopped everything she was doing, accompanying her to the flight attendant's seats. "So?" she asked, and Lorraine nodded. "We were right. Something's very wrong." Lorraine explained everything that the girl had said, but she also shared that the information deserved more context. What if the girl's father needed them flown out? What if their mom had arranged the whole thing? Interfering in private matters was never a good thing. But what if the girls truly needed help? "What do you want to do, Lorraine?" Ava asked. "Help," answered Lorraine with a straight face. She was realizing that getting in trouble for meddling in someone's personal issues wouldn't be as bad as regretting not having helped. Ava smiled and said, "We need a clear plan then. We have one shot at this. We cannot afford to mess up. What's on your mind?" "We need to assess what we know and don't," said Lorraine. She checked her watch. "We have 2 hours before the plane touches down." 2 hours isn't enough," Ava answered. "What do we know?" "The man has taken the girl and her sister from their mother," said Lorraine. "He's flying them to a different country, which isn't a good sign." "We know there isn't much we can do here," she continued, "but we can continue acting like we don't know what's happening. We don't want to spook him." She suggested asking the captain for help, seeing as he was the one who had access to the plane's communication systems. He was the only one who could convince the authorities to arrive on time. With the 2 hours counting down, Lorraine and Ava hurried to the captain and explained the situation. The captain was astounded and couldn't believe what he was hearing. Although he agreed that this case might not be something huge, he couldn't take any chances. He had heard about cases like this, and he knew what he had to do. The captain contacted the authorities, explaining the situation at hand. He went over everything Lorraine and Ava had shared, from how scared the girls looked to how apprehensive and on edge the man was. He explained that Lorraine had made contact with one of the girls and ascertained that the man wasn't their dad. But that wasn't all. The captain shared that the girls were taken when their mom wasn't home, which made the situation even more serious. Since the plane was about an hour from touching down in Rio, the captain requested the authorities send a few squad cars and an ambulance and wait at the runway. He wouldn't be taking any chances. After the call, he thanked Lorraine for her initiative, asking her and Ava to remain calm and carry on their duties as usual. "We don't want to spook him," he said. As far as Lorraine saw it, she'd done her part well. Now she only needed to hold on for 60 minutes, and the girls would be safe. The man looked at Lorraine suspiciously as she passed them. He looked at the girls, and they just continued watching their movies as per Lorraine's instructions. They just had to endure it for another half hour before they finally landed in Brazil. It was important for them all to remain calm, as if nothing was going on for them to execute the next steps in the plan. As the final minutes of the flight came, a serene quietness took the plane. But in the silence, emotions were charged. On one end, Lorraine's heart thumped in her ears as she wondered whether her plan would work. On the other end was the man, nervously craning his neck so he could catch a glimpse of what was happening outside the plane. As the flight was coming to an end, the captain made the necessary announcements. Everyone sat back as the plane slowly made its descent. Lorraine watched one last time as the man began talking to the girls. He was probably giving them instructions on what to do once they landed. It seemed like even he couldn't afford to mess this up. As the plane touched down, Lorraine knew it was now or never. She needed to spring into action and save the girls before it was too late. She saw the man get up and the girls had desperate looks on their faces. He wanted to quickly exit the plane from the back, but the girls were resisting. Lorraine knew they were panicking. He grabbed their hands and one of the girls shouted. Lorraine made her way to the girls. The other passengers were looking as they could see the commotion. Luckily, the captain also came to help. Lorraine separated the girls from the man, and the captain apprehended him as authorities made their way onto the plane. The man was immediately arrested. Lorraine and the girls were escorted off the plane and taken to a safe location in the airport. The girls were visibly shaken, but relieved that they were finally safe. Lorraine stayed with them until the authorities came to take their statements. It was then that Lorraine discovered something even more shocking. The two girls were eventually taken into protective custody. It seems that Lorraine had helped break open a cold case that had been going on for years. The man had been on the run for a long time, and thanks to Lorraine's quick thinking and actions, he was finally caught. The girls had been missing for 2 years. Lorraine was baffled by the revelation. After the incident, Lorraine was hailed as a hero by the authorities and her colleagues. She had saved 2 young girls from a life of misery and had helped bring a dangerous criminal to justice. The cops were able to bust open the whole operation and arrest everyone involved. Lorraine knew she had to do more to fight human trafficking. She volunteered with organizations that helped victims of trafficking. She also made it her mission to educate others on the dangers of trafficking and how to identify and report suspicious activity. She later learned that the girls were reunited with their mom and were doing well. She was so relieved that she listened to her instincts and acted when she did. Who knows what would have happened if she didn't?